What are those early signs of cognitive decline that we need to be aware of? And why is the cognoscopy, which you'll bring up, so important to screen those?
Yeah. This is a huge issue because we do miss so many of us, we'll forget a little something here, forget a little something there, and we'll just say, well, we're getting a little older, or we'll even go into our doctors. And I've heard horror stories of people going in relatively late stages, and the doctor's still saying, oh, it's just age-related cognitive change. No, if you have changes over time, if you're having trouble with remembering, where you plan to go, or phone numbers, or how to work your car, or getting lost. So the typical early signs, as you mentioned, break down into two types: amnestic and non-amnestic. So in other words, memory related and non-memory related. So about 2/3 of people, it's the memory problems, and they'll forget things like where their keys were or where their car was. It used to be said, well, if you forget where your car is, that's not a problem. But if you came in a car, that's waiting way too late. If you've gone and driven somewhere and parked and you forget, that's something to sit up and take note, and let's find out what's going on. This is why we recommend, as you mentioned, everyone who is 40 years of age or older should have a cognoscopy. And by the way, now there are new blood tests that add to this. So with a cognoscopy, it tells you why you are at risk. But when you're looking at this new one, which we call brain scan, and that is p-tau 217, GFAP, and NFL, that tells you if you have problems. That tells you if your p-tau is already creeping up, that's an important point that your brain is beginning. And, please don't worry about this. We can bring it if you do the right things. We identify the right toxins, the right microbes, everything that's going on. We can get your tau come back down to normal, which is what we wanted to do. So it's just like when people understood insulin resistance and they could get in many years earlier and prevent us all from getting type 2 diabetes. Now it's the same thing with Alzheimer's. You can get in early, you can identify it. So it's those three tests for if, p-tau 217, GFAP, and NFL. They are complementary three tests that will tell you if you have the beginnings. And then the cognoscopy part will tell you why. Is this methylation related? Is this infection related? Is this toxin related? Is this metabolism related? Is this inflammation related? So as you know, there are dozens of things that can contribute. We're really, when you talk about what Alzheimer's really is, it is a network insufficiency. So it's just like having a very complicated company or a very complicated country. You've got a whole bunch of things going on. You've got a supply and you've got an overall demand. Yeah. And when the demand exceeds the supply, you're going to get some downsizing. You're going to have to do less. This is just like, it's a very simple, this is the way things work. If your country is running in debt all the time, then you're going to have to figure out, how to do better on the supply side and how to reduce a little on the demand side. And of course, with our brains, the demand goes up when we have inflammation, any sorts of infections, leaky gut, poor diet with metabolic syndrome. Those things drive up the demand, as well as toxin exposure. So we can actually see how things change, and then we can bring it back into line, which is what's worked best. And the armamentarium is big. For some people, even doing things like stem cells can be helpful. For many people, getting the metabolism optimized, becoming insulin sensitive, being able to get some ketones so that you can use both glucose and ketones. A lot of this is low energetics for the brain, making sure the blood flow is optimal, making sure there's no sleep apnea. These things are all contributors to cognitive decline.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how when I hear you speak, you always take something that has been made out to be complex for so long and really simplify it. You kind of went to the heart of it, but when we say the word or the term Alzheimer's disease, right? If you were to simplify that, you're talking about this network system not having enough supply to meet demand. What is Alzheimer's disease really? Is it just that? Is it just that network not having enough supply to meet demand? because of all of these other contributing uh, triggers that are creating that debt load, I guess, on the network system. Is that?
Yeah, that is such a good question because it really gets to the heart of what the research has been about and why there's been such failure. People kept thinking, oh, this is just about making amyloid in your brain for some reason that wasn't clear why, or it's just about making tau, or it's just about herpes, or it's just about type 3 diabetes. There are all these theories,
Mhm.
and none of them has led to effective treatment. So we wanted to, let's take a step back and let's look at the 100,000-foot view. What is the nature of this thing? And if you look at this, step back and say, what's going on here? As we evolved as human creatures through the eons of evolution, what's happened is that evolution selects for it selects for performance over durability. So at every step along the way, you're selecting, and of course, why? Because the organism that selects durability over performance gets outperformed by the one that selects performance, right? So you end up with this amazingly productive and active brain, but it does have durability issues. It's almost as if at every step you selected for the Ferrari that's going to go 250 miles an hour or whatever. You keep selecting for that, but this thing may only have 10,000 miles or 20,000 miles before forget it. It's not going to, and it may break down fairly
Yeah.
frequently, but its performance is super high.
Yeah.
That's what's happened to our human brains. And what's interesting, if you look at the amount of information you can store in your brain, which is about 1,400-gram brain,
Yeah.
you can store as much as over 2,000 home computers all together. It's unbelievable.
Right.
The human brain can store as much as the largest supercomputers in the world.
Yeah.
So it is remarkable how it has selected for performance. And it's what's interesting. You have one system, which is neuroplasticity, which is performance, changing your ability to learn, change your behavior, adapt. You've got another one, which is for motor modulation, fine movements. And that's the one that fails in Parkinson's. And then you've got another one, which is for motor power, how you can take one thought and translate that and get tremendous increase in power from what it takes for one thought to what it takes to use your muscles to their fullest. And that's what goes awry in ALS. So repeatedly, we see this pattern of performance over durability.